This briefing focuses on China. The goal of this presentation is to inform you on various aspects of that country in preparation for your upcoming investment decision. There are many aspects of a country that may be relevant to potential investment decisions, and the various languages of a country is the first of such issues. Similarities and differences in languages can have a substantial impact on a firm's ability to communicate with local customers, suppliers, and even employees. Not only do Brazil and China have distinctly different dominant languages, many Brazilians might not be aware that even within China there are huge linguistic variations. What we normally refer to as Chinese actually includes 6 very different languages which are orally mutually unintelligible. An individual from Xi'an province who speaks Wu would not be able to understand an individual from Guangdong who speaks Hakka. A second issue which can influence a firm's ability to conduct business in a foreign country is the dominant religion. Religion has a potentially powerful impact on people's value systems and can influence how they behave and interact with one another. In terms of religious affiliation and attitudes, Brazil and China are quite distinct. While a very large proportion of the Chinese population has no religious affiliation, about 80%, the remaining portion of the population is heavily skewed to a mixture of Chinese folk religions, Taoism, and Buddhism at 17%. Moreover, it's not uncommon for individuals to claim adherence to multiple religions at the same time in China. A third factor which may influence a company's ability to conduct business in a foreign country is the level of industrial development. This not only influences the cost of labor in a country and the consumption patterns, but it also arguably shapes the attitudes, values, and behaviors of the population in general. Despite some obvious similarities, there are also substantial differences between Brazil and China in terms of the level of economic and industrial development. Most notably among these differences are Brazil's higher GDP per capita, more than double China, and the level of ownership of consumer items such as motor vehicles, televisions, and telephones. Brazil also is a substantially more urban country, with 79% of the population living in urban areas versus 31% for China. A fourth important issue is the similarities and or differences in the educational systems of countries. China, as compared to Brazil, has a more diversified and varied school system, which includes the traditional primary and secondary schools, plus schools for the deaf and the blind, key schools for college preparation, agricultural schools, technical schools, and several professional schools. The Chinese education system is not only regulated, it's also managed by the Chinese Communist Party at all levels. China is more focused on training people at all levels, technical, professional, and agricultural. And China has had a major expansion in education, increasing the number of undergraduates and people holding doctoral degrees by 5-fold in the last 10 years. A fifth critical issue with respect to doing business in another country is similarities and or differences in the legal and political systems. In China, the National People's Congress is deemed to be the highest organ of state power, as per the Chinese Constitution, and is partially composed of a permanent body called the Standing Committee of the NPC. The National Congress establishes the laws in China. In contrast, Brazil has a bicameral system where a lower house and the upper house, with all deputies, are elected by direct vote. Brazil is truly democratic, while China is barely representative, more totalitarian in form. A sixth but potentially more subtle issue is similarities and or differences in actual business practices. This can involve simple but potentially embarrassing issues such as how to properly greet people and attitudes towards time. There are many differences between Chinese and Brazilian business practices. In China, work is typically completed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Additionally, avoid plans to visit government offices on Friday afternoons. This is a time reserved for political studies. There are also differences in terms of dress. In the Chinese business culture, conservative suits and ties and subdued colors are the norm. Bright colors are considered inappropriate. Women should wear conservative suits or dresses, and tops should have high necklines. Stick with subdued colors such as beige and brown. There are also differences in communication styles. Negative replies are considered impolite. Instead of saying no, answer maybe or I'll think about it, and get into specifics later. You'll find the Chinese do the same. When your Chinese counterpart smiles and politely says, "No big problem," or "the problem's not serious," they usually mean there are still problems. The Chinese do not use their hands when speaking, and touching strangers is considered inappropriate. The seventh and final issue is the broader set of cultural values which are commonly shared by a large portion of a country's population. Countries can vary in terms of the emphasis placed on individuality versus conformity, the attitudes towards uncertainty and ambiguity, the attitudes towards authority and social inequities, and not the least, attitudes towards how gender roles are allocated in society. Brazil and China have very different cultures. The Chinese are in general more hierarchical than Brazilians, with more focus on respect for authority. Brazilians are also more liberal in terms of gender roles than China. Brazilians tend to be more individualistic and also less focused on the group. Lastly, Brazilians are often less comfortable with uncertainty than Chinese. This concludes our brief presentation on China.